Hey everybody, and welcome to my garage. I'm going to do something that I don't normally do, and I'm going to start doing more Planet Coaster 2 videos as topics come up that show interest to me. So please like my videos and provide any comments if you like the information and topics that I'm covering, and let me know if this is something you want to see me continue to do, or if you would like to see me doing something different. Comment on that as well. So in this first video, I want to kind of talk about jumping on the bandwagon and listing my top 12 things I would like to see, features, options, improvements in Planet Coaster 2. I know I'm a little bit late to the game on this, but I wanted to see what the community was saying out there before I put this video together. So, I kind of looked through the forums, I looked out online, in the internet, and I kind of put together a list of what most people are talking about. And, believe it or not, it's really a pretty similar list to the list that I personally had. So let me just go through these as quick as I could, counting down from number 12. Oh, and by the way, the reason I'm putting this out now is I wanted to talk about some of this stuff before we see some live gameplay that Frontier is going to share with us later on this week. So, starting at number 12, switch tracks. Switch tracks have always been asked for in Planet Coaster, pretty much from day one, back in the day when it started up. And switch tracks are needed for a realistic look, a realistic coaster look. And while it's a great option, personally, I think there are many other things that are more important to me. So while this is a good one, it's the lowest on my most important list. Next, we have number 11, elevators. Elevators can be a great benefit for both water parks and regular amusement coaster type parks. You could use them to get to rides, different levels of elevation change without putting, or the need of putting, I should say, some unsightly paths. When you have high elevation changes in this game, building a zigzaggy path or zigzaggy staircase really becomes difficult to do and is very unsightly. How would Frontier do this? I don't know. I'm not a coder, but one of the things I think that could handle this is just to manage it as a path type that maybe guests would have to wait to enter. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in some of my other items in a few minutes. One other item I want to add on the elevator topic is that Frontier already released some pictures or screenshots from the game a couple weeks ago when they did the announcement, and many players pointed out that it looks like the way stairs function, as far as how the stairs are built, is going to be a more improved version in Planet Coaster 2. So I'm going to leave this topic a little bit on the open checklist, because maybe the staircase building will be much cleaner and much easier to do in Planet Coaster 2, and elevators may not be needed, but I'm hoping that we're going to see more on that this week when they show the live gameplay. Number 10. So this is a pre-show. I'm a big amusement park enthusiast, and pre-shows have become a key part in most major e-ticket type rides. Now, how could you do a pre-show in Planet Coaster 2? Well, I'm almost looking at it as being a specialized queue path piece. This is a great idea. I know a lot of people are talking about it, and like I just mentioned with the elevator path type, I would think this might work similar to that. It would be a piece that would have like what I'm calling a stall timer. So it might be a wider square path piece. Guests would go into this path piece, and then they would stall out, not wanting to move or have to move somewhere else. And you could set that timer. So if you set it, let's just say for 10 minutes, you could have things that happen in that pre-show while they stand there. And after that timer expires, guests will just naturally move on to the next piece of path, which is past the pre-show, or in this case, it would be a queue path to get them to the loading station. Speaking of loading stations, I think this would almost work just like a loading station. In the current Planet Coaster game, guests leave the queue path, they enter the boarding station, they wait in the boarding station for the actual coaster car lane to open up, and then they move into that lane. So this would work very similar to that, where it's like you wait in one section before you go to the next section. So this would just be a longer wait time where you could build a pre-show around it. Let me know in the comments what you think about these ideas, by the way, as you hear what I'm talking about. Number 9, working railroad crossings. Now, most amusement parks don't have railroads that cross paths, but creative builders like myself sometimes require that railroad to be at ground level and have to cross a path. In Planet Coaster 1, in the Theme Maker Toolkit, there were some pieces out there that had working railroad crossing gates. I put those in my game, as you could see in the sample here, and put an event tag on the train ride when to activate the railroad crossing, and it would close automatically. Now, while it wasn't a working path, this was all just a faux setup. In a real life scenario, this is something that would work. And again, maybe it might just be a special path piece. You can see I have a theme here on special path pieces. This would be a railroad crossing path piece that would prevent or have a temporary do not enter or do not cross type code to it, so that when the gate was down, guests would stop and not try to cross the tracks. Number 8 and number 7. I'm grouping these together because they're very similar. One is a playground pieces and the other one is splash pad pieces. I'm putting these together because they're really the same thing, except one's on dry ground, one's on wet ground. I almost envision this as being specific building pieces that you could put together and build your own custom playground or splash pad. Personally, I could understand that the mechanics to make this work with guests interacting with it may be more difficult. As a phase 1 approach, personally, I would be happy even if these were just scenery pieces, not functional with the game, not interactive with the guests, but just something you could build as a scenery area in your parks. While I'm talking here, you could see that there's a sample of a splash pad that I have in a park that I'm working on right now. Again, not functional. I just built it over a plaza area of paths and put in some water features in the game. Number 6. This is really the only thing on my list that's an actual ride and not a building or pathing type request. And that's the OmniMover. I have to say, Frontier, why did it take so long to get an OmniMover type ride in the game? All the Haunted Mansions, all the dark ride type rides people have built over the years would be so much more creative if there was an OmniMover type ride. And I have to say, from an execution standpoint, I might understand, or I could understand, why Frontier hasn't been able to do this yet. And that may be the loading. The way the loading happens in the old or original Planet Coaster game, I'm assuming will be similar in the new game, and that's that it's individual loading. So guests will get into a car, guests will get into a train. So it was recently pointed out on the forums that the Planet 1 game actually does have the ability to load guests on moving ride vehicles. For example, the ski lift, the gondolas have that capability. So I would think something like this could be added pretty easily. Fingers crossed, let's see what happens. Number 5, one-way paths. So once again, here's another path entry on my list. And basically, I think from an execution standpoint, this could be handled like the current curbs are handled in Planet Coaster 1. So this would just be a new option for a curb type path accessory or a curb type path piece. And to me, at least, it seems a little simple. You know, instead of a total block, it would just block a path one way. So you could do it with a curb, or you could do it as a path piece. I just think this is a very important feature in the game because it helps traffic flow, and it allows the builder or the user to force the movement of the guests through the park a little bit in their control. Number 4, parades. This has always been a big one too that people ask for all the time, and the community seems pretty divided on the need of parades. As a builder and a creative builder like myself, I think parades are a great challenge to try to add to our parks. Again, I think this could be handled as a custom path piece, and maybe if not a custom path piece, but a custom ride or a ride track system. So you basically would build a track, and it even could be an invisible track or a track that would reside below ground, but it would work a lot like a train track or an OmniMover, and that would set the path of the parade. And then you could either have pre-built floats or maybe even build some floats of your own that would follow this predetermined path. If it were a special path piece, and the reason why I say it could be a path piece is that that path piece could prevent guests from allowing them to walk on it when the parade is coming by. Again, not a coder, not knowing if this is something that could even happen, but I would think it's something that could be workable. Number 3, ride photos, but I'm also classifying in the same item cameras for recording video in the game. So ride photos themselves, I'm not so much a fan of. You know, it's a great feature in the game, but I don't think it's real important. But cameras, especially for content creators like myself, we're always looking for great camera shots, great sweeping panoramic flying camera drone type shots. Basically, the camera option that they have in Planet Zoo needs to be carried over to Planet Coaster 2. I think this is a gimme and something that absolutely has to be included with the initial rollout of the game. Dark interiors, and I'm going to change that to actually say true dark interiors. This is, you know, something again that's been asked almost from day one of Planet Coaster, and that's that when you build a dark ride within a building, that it's truly dark. You don't have to darken the game to a nighttime scenario, that it could be the middle of the day and you have true dark interiors. Again, how would this be executed? I think some type of flat roof piece that is set to block any light from the direction that that flat roof piece is placed. I think something like that could be something that is a very easy solution to this long asked for feature. Number 1, I'm calling this animation design. Again, for the creative builders like myself, we're always looking for something to make our parks look more realistic and more active with animatronic type features and animatronic type scenery. And seeing what Frontier already released as a new feature in Planet Coaster 2, where you could add scenery pieces to coaster cars or you could add scenery pieces to flat rides, I almost think this could easily be done. So instead of adding scenery pieces to, say, a coaster or a flat ride, you add it to what I call the animation designer. And I know a bunch of people have been talking about this. They said it could be a platform. So, I look at it as being a disc or maybe even just a bar of some sort. And you could connect scenery pieces, either individual scenery pieces or blueprint, groups of scenery pieces to this animation platform. And this platform would have the capability of you designing whether it could rise, up and down, lower and in different heights. It could sway back and forth. It could tilt back and forth, or it could even spin. And these would just be different options of how you could move this. And this would be a great feature to add. And I'm telling you, this would be a game changer for me personally if something like this was, even a simplified version of this was added into Planet Coaster 2. Bonus items. Haha. I couldn't have only 12. I actually have 2 other items I just want to list because I haven't heard much talk about them, at least in the areas I've been looking. But first one is Midway Games. Having workable Midway games that the guests actually play in game would be super awesome to have, super great for building those Midway type carnival games into your parks. The other thing I just want to mention is a workshop and or theme maker toolkit type feature. Now I know Frontiers mentioned there's going to be a Frontier workshop already, so that part's covered. But the need to get a theme maker type capability in there and let the game users design their own scenery, the sooner the better. It can't come soon enough. I wish something like this would be available in rollout of the game. I don't think that's going to happen in a real world, but I sure hope Frontier plans on making that a reality as soon as possible into the life of this game. My only concern with this never showing up in Planet Coaster 2 is they never rolled this out for Planet Zoo. So I don't know if it's because of the different engine. I don't know if it's just their business model. I can't say for sure, but I really miss it in Planet Zoo, and I think it'll even be missed more in Planet Coaster 2. So again, let me know your comments. Let me know your ideas. What did I leave off the list that's an absolute must? And let's see what this game looks like in a couple days. Everybody have a great day. For now, my garage is closed.